Okay, hello everybody. Crystal, it's always good to see those future Gardner Webb students peek in. Hello, bud. Cute little fella. Well, I hope everybody is doing well. Appreciate you joining me tonight. And I hope everybody is safe and healthy. We will go ahead and get started. It's 7 p.m. and it is July the 7th, 2020. The recording application is on and moving. So tonight, I just kind of want to make sure and check in. Does anybody have any questions about OMA? Seems to be everybody's moving right along. I was reviewing some artifacts today in the competency folio. Those are getting populated. I've noticed a couple of the OMA has been submitted to task stream, and I think School of Ed dispositions. I've seen some of those come across. Just wanted to check in first to see if there's any questions with that. And it is my understanding that you all wanted me to kind of review the SCIP, the stakeholder community involvement plan. Is that correct? Okay, I'm getting blank stares from everybody.
Yes, we had asked Dr. Sumner.
Okay, Amy, hold on just a minute. I can see that that you're talking, but I can't hear you. I might have my speaker. I do. Hold on just a minute. I'm sorry. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, we had asked Dr. Sumner if she could go over, if we could get like a preview so that we could kind of know what's coming, since there's a lot of unknown for the start of the school year. Then maybe just to know what's going on, that would help us.
Yeah, that's great. Has she gone over any of that with you so far?
Okay. No, none yet.
And I'll tell you, the SCIP, even with Plan A, Plan B, or Plan C, whatever we do in North Carolina, and I'm apologize for those of you who are in South Carolina. I'm not haven't kept up with what your return to school options are for South Carolina, but for North Carolina, we've got a Plan A, a Plan B, and Plan C. Actually, it's a good opportunity to use communication going to and from the community as a result of the COVID-19 that you can actually put into the SCIP. So yeah, I'll be happy to go over that, and I've got it pulled up on my computer, and we'll share the handbook prompt and stuff in just a moment. But before we do, I want to make sure that there's no questions on the OMA or task stream like the competency folio or School of Ed dispositions. Any questions on that? All right, well, I will go ahead then, and we'll talk about the SCIP. We'll spend some time going over it.
I'm sorry, Dr. Bullis.
No, Scott, no problem. Go ahead.
I couldn't get to the space bar in time. Hey, worst case scenario, if we're still building hours, with it being a 10-week class and with us having some time before August, whatever that is, we have some, or maybe this is a question we got some time to work on our hours, right?
Yeah, that's a good question. Before I answer that though, understanding that 80 hours in a 10-week semester is challenging. I believe we did let you count some hours from the day after the last day of last semester to accumulate those. Personally, I don't have a problem if you're in good shape and you just need to carry over a few more, whatever that time is, a few more days, another week or whatever. If you need a little bit of extra time to finish that 80 out, I'm okay with that. Let's just put it this way. contact me if you don't think you're going to be able to get those 80 hours knocked out by the last day of the semester. Just contact me individually. Let me take a look at where you're at, and then we'll kind of plan on where you're going to go to get those 80 hours in. You know me, or should know me by now. You know, I'm going to try to work with you all I can on stuff like that, especially in a situation that we're in right now. But I'd really like to see you try hard to get those knocked out. If you feel like you're going to fall short for whatever reason, you know, this is kind of standard for Gardner Webb anyway. You know, if somebody's sick, or you get sick, or, you know, God forbid, or, you know, something happens and it's knocking you behind, if you'll let us know, you know, that's kind of our unwritten, you know, one of our unwritten core values is that we'll work with you. So, you know, just let me know. Just let me know individually if you don't think you're going to be able to get those 80 hours in by the end of this semester, and then we'll take it from there.
Thank you. And I anticipate being done. It's more just covering bases, but thank you.
Yeah, no problem. And I know that I know you will, and I can understand that question, and it's a great question. I'm glad you asked it. So, you know, just let me know. Just let me know. Any other questions? All right, I am going to share my screen here, and we are going to talk about the SCIP, which used to be the SIP. This used to be the Stakeholder Involvement Plan back in the day. Let's see, I've got the wrong thing up here. Let me share again. Okay, here we go. But yeah, back in the day, this used to be the Stakeholder Involvement Plan. And man, you talk about a lot of confusion with the candidates because, you know, of course, everybody likes to use acronyms. We were talking about the SIP. Everybody thought it was the School Improvement Plan. And if you'll notice, you'll still see, you know, a couple of the acronyms that haven't been changed over yet in the update. But it is the SCIP, which is the Stakeholder Community Involvement Plan. Basically, what this is, as an administrator, you're going to need to take a look at your school and its place in the community. Number one, are you promoting the school? Are you telling all the good things that can be told about your school out there in the community? And, you know, nowadays it's more important than ever to promote public education, to promote what's going on in your school, to get those lines of communication, establish them, and then sustain them as you move forward as a principal. Because, you know, there's investments out there, and when I talk about investment, I'm not talking about money, but investment in time and energy and even interest that you need to pull from that community and establish those partnerships with all your stakeholders, not just your students, but the parents, and not just the parents of those students attending your school, but businessmen in the community, faith-based organizations, civic organizations. You know, the SCIP is all about you taking a hard look at your school and putting yourself in the role of a principal. Take a hard look at your school and looking for some weaknesses, you know, identify some strengths, but looking at some weaknesses where your school can improve to promote the good things going on in your school, promote those to the community, but also to pull in support from the community, to pull in support from your parents, and to establish those relationships. And that's basically what the SCIP is. And it's a great, I think this is probably one of my favorite ones. As far as evidences go, because it's so important nowadays more than ever for you to establish those community partnerships and take a hard look at your school and say, you know, where can we improve in that? And so that's kind of where the SCIP is coming around. There's 4 tasks in the SCIP. The first task is you're going to do another collaborative needs assessment. Now, and this kind of follows the same type of process that you had in the APSL, but you need to get with your site supervisor, whether it's your principal or your assistant principal. But on that administrative team, you're going to have to pull together another PLC. Can it be the same PLC that you've used in the past? Yes, absolutely. But you need input from your administrative team. Let your principal, site supervisor know what you're doing with this task as always, and get their help to kind of select and organize a team that can help you with this. Now, the thing about this is, when I said you can use your old PLC team, is you need to use internal and external stakeholders. So there needs to be, if you can get it, there needs to be a parent. If you can get a community representative, whether it be a leader in the community, a business leader, faith-based civic organization, like, whatever kind of those I went through before, but you don't need, it's just not school people on this team, it's community people, parents on this team as well. If I've told candidates before, if your school has a parent advisory council, great place to pull in some people from there. PTO, great place to pull in some people from there. If you're a Title I school, you will have a parent representative on the Title I committee, or the person that kind of signs off on the Title I plan or the school improvement plan. Be a good person. And just look to the people who volunteer in your school about pulling in some people to be on this community. And you guys are going to do a needs assessment and the level of communication, and there's a little bit more to it than that, but a level of communication between the school and the community. The level of communication going on in the school itself, administrative, leadership team to teachers, to students, to parents of students, to the community at large. You're going to do that analysis, and then you're going to come up, you're going to look at the strengths, you're going to look at the weaknesses, then you're going to come up with some objectives, short-term objectives and long-term objectives to improve that communication. Now I'll get into the nitty-gritty of it right now. This is just kind of an overview. So when you complete that needs assessment and that analysis of the communication, and along with that's going to go leadership opportunities within the school. Then you're going to, like I said, you come up with those short-term, long-term objectives. Okay, if you want to achieve these objectives, what have you got sitting in your building right now that's going to help you do that? Part of being a good administrator is knowing what kind of resources you have on hand to do what you need to do. Resources, money, yeah, fiscal resources, absolutely. What kind of fiscal resources are flowing into the school to do what you need to do? I was in about a 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 1, 2, about a 5-hour meeting today, maybe 4.5-hour meeting today. All we talked about was that CARES Act funding. All the ESSER funds, all that CARES Act funding flowing into the district, and where we need to allocate those resources to get them to the principal to meet the needs that we've been hearing about. So as a principal, that's one of the big things that principals are maybe being faced with right now is, and I don't want to get off on this tangent, so somebody stop me, put the stop sign up if I get to rambling about this. But, face masks, hand sanitizer, gowns, face shields, what are you going to need to start the school? And you may need to, people may be sewing masks and bringing them into you. People may be offering to help out. So what resources, as an administrator, what resources can you identify to achieve those long-term and short-term objectives? Another part about being an administrator, like I said, recognize those physical resources, but those leadership opportunities, that human resource that you got in the building. You need to be able to get in the habit of recognizing the leadership potential in others. So as you come out of this organizational analysis and you start looking at these short and long-term objectives that you want to accomplish, who in the building can help you accomplish that? And it may be that you don't need any fiscal resource, may need that you don't need any money. You just need human capital invested to acquire these short-term and long-term objectives. So recognize who in the building can help you achieve that. So you do an organizational analysis, do a needs assessment about communication between the school and the community. You want to improve that. You identify those strengths, but you want to make improvements in that area. So you kind of let's pull everything together. How are we going to make this happen? And then take all that information and develop a marketing plan and promote whatever that plan is. How are you going to promote it to the community? How are you going to promote it to the people in the building? Like, it's internal and external stakeholders. So promoting that to the teachers, promoting that to the students, promoting that to the parents in the community, and marketing your school. And I tell you what, that is in my opinion, that is a key strength an administrator needs to have, or somebody on that leadership team at that school needs to have. And that's how to promote what's going on in your school, to pull in those resources and to pull in those investments in the community that you need to make good things happen for your students. And so you develop a marketing plan. And then task 4, and that's kind of something I want to mention to you about task 4. Task 4 is, of course, the reflections on the competencies, and you reflect on the 9 that you didn't reflect on this semester. But part of those reflections are from the SCIP and the Culture, Advocacy, and Action Plan, the CAP, the CAAP. If you'll notice right here, it'll ask you to reflect, to look at both of those as you reflect on your competencies, to pull in some experiences from both of those evidences. Now, I have known course instructors in the past to do the CAP first. So I just want to make you aware of that, because they think, well, some of them will think, well, maybe the CAP needs to be done first, so you can actually, when you get done with the SIP, you can do the reflection from the CAP is already there. Then you pull in reflection from the SIP, because you can't really reflect on the CAP until you do it. But that's okay. Either way, you'll be prepared. If you do the SCIP first, then once you complete the CAP, go back in and put the information from the Culture, Advocacy, and Action Plan into those competencies. Go back and backfill, if you will, to do that. Once you find out who your instructor is for next semester, then go ahead. That might be a good question to ask them. I don't know at this point, and I'm not even sure. I hope and pray that I'm following you guys into 604. I don't know that I will, because sometimes when it gets to 604 and 605, they kind of, you get funneled off to another coach to kind of help you finish out the program. But even if you do the work on the SCIP now, no problem. If you want to go ahead and get a head start and get working on it, go ahead, because that's work that you won't have to do later on. I'm going to pause right now because I did see something come up in the chat. Yes, great question. You are completing the Stakeholder Community Involvement Plan, the SCIP, and you are completing the Culture, Advocacy, and Action Plan for 604. They're both relatively short evidences, and there's a lot of crossover too. And when I get in kind of the nitty gritty of task 1, you'll see where that comes into play, because there is some crossover between these two evidences. So you're not rebuilding, build the SIP and then you have to start all over it and completely from the ground up build the CAP. You can use some of the framework that you have started in the SIP to build onto with the CAP and go forward. Can you give us a nutshell of the CAP 2? Not tonight, but I tell you what I will do. What I will do is I will do a recording that goes through the CAP, and I'll send it out to everybody. Is that acceptable? Okay, great. Yeah, I'll kind of like what I'm doing right now. I'll go through the CAP and record it, and I'll send it out to you. Look for that maybe this weekend. If you don't see it by Monday, somebody ask me where that is at. Okay, Amanda, did you have a question? Okay, I saw you. I thought it was you. I saw somebody's hand raised. So let me pause if there's a question. Okay, maybe you were giving me a thumbs up. Groovy, thank you. All right, so let's dig on down in here and hold on just a minute. Let me get up on the chat again.
She says it was an accident, so we're good.
Okay, great. Hey, Dr. Sumner, how are you?
Hey, I'm good. How are you?
Doing good. Thank you, and I appreciate that. Thanks. Well, okay, so it wasn't a thumbs up. So now I'm a little bummed that I wasn't getting the accolade, but that's okay. I can get over that. So we go back into the task one, and like I said, you're going to conduct a needs assessment of the communication between the internal and external communities. So, you know, what does that look like? What communication is coming out from your school and coming into your school? Like I said before, PTO, parent advisory councils, newsletters, take a look at that, phone calls, call logs. I mean, it's wide open to whatever you choose to look at to conduct this needs assessment. And keep that in mind when you're conducting the needs assessment. You want to look at a wide variety of data because that gives you a clearer picture of the school. If you want to do a survey and get the survey out to your internal and external stakeholders about the level of communication, you know, you can do that. Pull that information as a part of your needs assessment. But anything that you want to look at that will give you data that you can analyze to determine some strengths that are going on in the way. It could be qualitative data, it could just be your observations, but some strengths that are going on in the way of communicating with your community and with your teachers, and maybe identify some areas for improvement. I think there's opportunity for both right now, because I think there are a lot of strengths in some of the things that we're communicating to our stakeholders in the way of COVID-19, but there's also a lot of weaknesses and opportunities for improvement. Now, if you want to tackle that, you know, this is kind of an opportunity to do that. But if you want to kind of shy away from that and look at some of the other things, you know, that's gone on over the years that you seem to need to be improved as well, that's up to you. That's up to you. So let me move. Part of that is going to be a set of recommendations, and that's where your long-term and your short-term objectives come into in doing the SCIP is what are your short-term objectives towards improvement, and some of that stuff could be COVID-19 related, and then what are your long-term objectives and improvement, and you work with your team. Once again, you want to show those leadership competencies and working with your team to lead them through this organizational analysis to determine that. Now, part of that is also going to be reviewing the teacher working conditions survey. It just came out. That data is fresh and new. Great opportunity for you to get some really, really good experience and looking in that teacher working conditions survey in an objective manner and pulling out the information. That can be your secondary. That can be your secondary survey if you choose to do that. If you're in South Carolina and you don't have the North Carolina Teacher Working Conditions Survey, I know South Carolina does something comparable to that, where you can pull in that similar information. But when you look at that Teacher Working Conditions Survey, and this is why I want you to really have a good conversation with your administrators and let them know what you're going to be doing for this task. And if your site supervisor is maybe an instructional specialist or an assistant principal, then I think you should get in front of your principal as well to let them know what you're doing this task. Because if you'll look here, part of that teacher working conditions survey is going to evaluate school leadership and the way that leadership communicates and looks at the community. So yeah, can that be a touchy situation? Yeah, absolutely. It can, especially if you're finding out some things that you know some people may not want to hear. So you let them know ahead of time what you're going to be doing with this, and you know just keep that in mind. You know, if they're, you know, I don't want to put that qualitative statement on it. But let's just say when I was a principal, first thing I did in the school, brand new principal, first thing I did was 360 evaluation, where I did a survey and I pulled in a consultant to evaluate me during my first year as a school leader. And I sat in front of everybody and had him tell me the results of that survey and results of that data analysis in front of the whole faculty, because I was going to be completely transparent with them about my desire to improve. So some principals may be glad about this. You know, they're pouring through that teacher working conditions survey anyway, or should be, It is what it is. They're going to have to respond to that in some form or fashion. So it may not be a touchy situation, but I'm just saying, make sure your principal knows what you're doing. So once you do all that, then you do, like I said, and here's the organization, time management, delegation skills. That's all those competencies that you really need to focus in as you lead this team through all of this into task 1. So let's look down here at the prompt. This is a great outline for what your task 1 should look like. Is, of course, you want a background description of the setting. You can pull that from what you've done in the past. You need to make sure you have established with your team, your SCIP team, and for yourself, a clear statement of the purpose of the needs assessment. That needs to be identified and discussed. Then, as you did in the APSL, list your participants, who they are. Remember, internal and external. There needs to be some parents, and man, if you can pull in a community leader, that would be awesome. But who they are, what their affiliation is, and how are they going to be involved? At what point in the process are they going to be active? So then we get into the delegation. Who's going to help you analyze? Who's going to help you identify those weaknesses? Who's going to help you identify those areas and establish those short and long-term objectives? And at what point are they going to be involved in that? And then what you found out, and then a recommendation based on what you found out. And remember, that needs to be short and long-term objectives, and that is avenues of communication to the community, how you can open up and have a richer engagement with the community. Now, if you're a Title I school, you got a parent and family engagement policy, you got a parent and family engagement plan on how your school implements that policy. That would be a good document and resource for you to look at. If I know a lot of principals are already doing and writing that plan now, they should have done it last year too. Some of them may not have got to that point right yet, but that can be part of it as well. And then in that task 1, once you get down to analyze the teacher working condition survey, here is also an outline of kind of how you want to direct that narrative. Background organizational setting, you don't necessarily need to copy what you did up here. If there's any new information just pertaining to the teacher working condition survey and your organization, that's good. What the participants did in relationship to organizing or analyzing the teacher working condition survey. And then you go through and look at those areas of leadership in the teacher working condition survey and make recommendations for improvement in that area as well. Any questions on task 1? That's going to be the big part of what you do for the SCIP.
How many short and long-term goals would be a 3 or a 4?
That's a good question. I tell you what, in any type of improvement plan, the recommendation is 3 to 6. I don't think you need to go much more above 3, and you really let the data dictate that. What do you see in the data that needs to be accomplished? But once again, you don't want to stretch yourself too thin on that as well. So just let the data tell you. But I know a lot of times people say anywhere from 3 to 5 or 3 to 6. So just kind of take that with a grain of salt of what you feel like you need to do to address some of those areas of improvement that you saw need to have. Good deal. Any other questions on task 1? Excuse me. Okay, task 2. That's what as I said earlier, you've done all this organizational analysis. You looked at the communication. You analyzed the teacher working condition survey. You established those short-term objectives and those long-term objectives. What do you need to get the job done? What do you need to accomplish those objectives in the way of people and in the way of money? And like I said, you may not need any money. A lot of times it's just a matter of getting people to volunteer and step up and do something. You can do a lot that you don't need any fiscal resources for, but if you establish some things that cost some money, then you need to have a conversation with your administrative team okay, if I were to do this, and what funds would be available to me to make this happen? And that's a good conversation for you to have, your principal. Get a little bit more knowledge into financing and budgeting at the school level, and have a conversation with them about that. And then look out there and determine who in your school, and not just, and let me back up, not just in your school, who in your community, which including your school, can step up and help you or would be a good person. Do you have somebody in the community that's a great promoter, that really helps out, that volunteers a lot at the school, that can help you accomplish some of these objectives? That's, as I said, big part of being a leader is recognizing who out there can help you get the job done that you need to get done, and nurturing and sustaining those relationships to make it happen. Establishing those relationships with people out in the community that can help you and get those things done. And those of you who have coached quite a bit, and even those of you who run any kind of club at a school, there's some key people out in the community that can help you a lot with what you need to do in relationship to helping you out with your team, or helping you out with your club, donating not just items and stuff, but time as well, and coming in and spending their time with your students. So that's a big part of task 2. It says what is necessary to accomplish those objectives that you established in task 1, and whether it's fiscal or human capital, how identify those, and then how are they going to be applied to helping you accomplish those objectives. Any questions on task 2? Groovy. All right. Task 3 is, now's your marketing plan. So you're going to market and promote your school based on all that information that you accumulated and those objectives that you established. You know what you need to do. You got everything lined up to establish them. Now, how are you going to get the word out? How are you going to market that? How are you going to, first of all, how are you going to get that out to community and get that out to people in your school so they can understand and buy into what you're doing? And this is all about promoting the school. This is all about making your school look good. But also in doing that, you want to leave avenues of, remember, all this is about avenues of communication too, is input from the community on that during the decision-making process. As you move through the plan, are you going to give the community opportunity to give you input to what you're doing? You're seeing a lot of stuff coming out now with different plans, and DPI is sending out information and seeking community input and community feedback, and that's all part of that, is getting feedback on your marketing plan, getting feedback and letting them help you in the decision-making process and establishing these goals and objectives. And then, just like any other kind of plan, an action plan is, what's the timeline on getting the job done? And then how are you going to seek feedback for evaluation and reflection to where you can improve this marketing plan, or what, not that you have to go ahead and get that now, but go ahead and establish that framework and determine that once you engage in this marketing plan, how are you going to get feedback from the community and from the school, and kind of evaluate it to see if anything can be done better next time, or any improvement can be made. And kind of one of the things that we've done, and I kind of started this when I first came on board in my current position, that kind of goes along with this, and I'll make it real brief, was an English language family night. So I got to noticing that our English language learners really, the families had limited opportunities to be engaged into not necessarily at the school level, but at the district level. So after some, pulled some people together, kind of followed this process actually, and set some goals, and we started an English language family night. So once a year at the beginning of the year, which I don't know if it's going to happen this time, but we bring all of our English language learners and their families. I got interpreters on hand. We got activities together. We have some type of guest speaker, keynote speaker come in and talk to them about not just about their students, but some opportunities in the community for them to be engaged in. And then every student who exited ESL service because of their performance on the language acquisition test, access is what we call it in North Carolina, we brought them up on stage, gave them a certificate, superintendent shake their hand, we gave them a door prize. So it's like a graduation thing. Every year after we finish that, I pull everybody back in that next week for a debriefing. What went well? What didn't go well? How do we need to improve it for next year? And so that, if you want to find out more about that, I'd be happy to share it with you on an individual basis. But that's key. This will be the 5th or 6th year. I think it's the 6th year that we've done that. Every year we find things that we can improve upon to make it a better experience for our families. And that's kind of the context and the mindset you need to be thinking about when you finish up this marketing plan. And then task 4 is you reflect on the competencies. You reflect on the 9 competencies that you didn't select in the OMA. There's some dialogue, or there's some text up at the beginning that kind of tells you some about what those would be. That there's a lot of opportunities here for you to show artifacts on, especially delegation and things of that nature. But remember, the rubric asks for you to reflect on the SIP and the CAP. So, I'll work with, if I'm your coach, which I hope I am, if I'm your coach next semester, I'll work with you on how to navigate through that. And once you get the SIP done and those reflections, kind of leave room in your mind open to put in some information about the CAP, and then we'll work through all that. I guess the thing we need to find out first is what your course instructor expect for you for 604, and we'll work through that together. And that's basically it for the SIP. Any questions? Dr. Sumner, would you like to add anything, or do you have anything that you need to address?
And I'm sure you talked about this, and we can talk about it again in the next couple of weeks, but just making sure that competency folio, that they're requesting your feedback. And guys, I just got off a Zoom with 605 students, and they have 2 weeks left. Some of them have rocked it out, and they've been done with that competency folio and everything else for a week or two. And some of them are sweating bullets. You do not want to wait on that. Please, please, please get that stuff set up now, so that you're continuing to add. And by the time you get to 605, I'd like to see you just be pretty much done with everything other than what, with task related work, artifact related work that's just in 605. So really kind of think about getting that done. Same thing with internship log. Make sure you've gotten that done for this semester, and your disposition self-assessment. The other thing that we had shared with you, but I want to mention again, July 21st, Dr. Barnes and I will record the session for that week. And then for those of you who want to, you've got the Zoom link to participate in Dr. Lamb's interview session. And there's some really good stuff. He'll share resources with you. It's great. The other thing I'm going to share with you, I found it out of necessity because I was having to conduct so many virtual interviews, that I found a really good piece of information on what to do for virtual interviews. So I'm going to share that with you as well, because who knows, that may be what you're doing. And some of you are in districts, or are looking for jobs in districts where they have said you have to finish the program or be right at the end. Some of you are in places where that's not the case. All you have to do from us, most districts or most school boards are going to ask for a letter of good standing. So if you need that, Dr. Bull is doing that right now, and maybe somebody else in the fall. But just if you need one of those, there's a letter, and you could work with Dr. Bullis and then myself or Dr. Barnes to just say, hey, yes, this person is in good standing, and go ahead and hire them. So just let us know. The other thing, I'm not going to talk about this tonight, but Dr. Bullis, are you okay if I share my screen for just a second? Oh, or will you? Let's see. I think I have to. Let me see. It may be that you have to make me host. Let's see if I can do it now. Awesome, thank you. I will put this in your and send it to Dr. Barnes as well for this week, just so you've got it. I mean, it's just very brief information, coaching. These are all the things that Dr. Bullis went over. A couple of things that I want you to think about, because this week a big topic is looking at student discipline, but one of the big things that's out there right now is, do our schools need resource officers? Should we have schools, particularly secondary, are the main ones that have resource officers? Should they be there? So I hope that you will think about that. I mean, if I'd had a crystal ball, I would have made this one of the assignments for the week to ask and think about and do some research on. But I do think it's really important that, in light of kind of, that's a conversation that's coming up a whole lot, and just think about yourself, ask folks who you have established as mentors, because that certainly is important. The other thing, and again, I'll share this, the next 3 weeks, what we've got going on. Dr. Bullis, great job. Thank you so much for going ahead and sharing that information. It'll make life a lot easier to go ahead and get started on it. And this is kind of what we have left. So, for these last couple of weeks, if you have any questions or needs, we really want to be available for you, and so check in with us. You know, like you all, and Dr. Bullis, I'm not sure if you talked about this at the beginning, like our day job lives, one of the things that helps us be current is that we are still employed with the school systems and with organizations where it gives us some great insight. But the other thing about that is, man, is it crazy for us right now. So just know that we'll try to get back with you as soon as possible, but we're trying to put out fires and predict where the next one's going to start, you know, just as is what's happening in all of your districts. So we appreciate your patience, but we also know we're getting towards the end and you're anxious. Okay. Any questions, like for me, or that I can pass on to Dr. Barnes?
Dr. Sumner, I have a question. So the 604 is 8 papers total, because each of those has 4. Is that correct?
In terms of the skip and the cap, or
yes, ma'am.
Yeah. I think so. Okay. I know I should remember that. I did it last semester with a group. I think that's right.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes.
That's why we were asking you. It just seemed like a lot of material that we're going to have to know going into a unknown school year for what it's going to look like for us.
You're not kidding. Absolutely. And just like Dr. Bullis was saying, I mean, with the SIP, you could full on go COVID and work on it. You can also, all the other stuff hasn't gone away. It might look a little different, but it's still important. So for you all, this is the one semester where you've got the 2 artifacts. So it is a little bit harder. It's particularly more difficult now since who knows what July is going to bring, much less anything else. So yeah, I would, if at all possible, go ahead and get started on that. And as soon as we find out who your 604 instructor is, we'll go ahead and communicate that to you. And I really feel confident that they probably are not going to fight us, whoever it is, they're not going to fight us on doing the skip first. I mean, Dr. Bullis, don't you feel like we can confidently say, like, you know, they're not going to try to make your lives harder right now?
No, I don't think so. I think it is, like you said, I think it's just a matter of finding out who that individual is, and maybe communication. And like I said, I'm going to do that recording for the CAP, and hopefully we'll find some information out for you, and that way you'll kind of know where to focus your areas. But now the CAP's going to go fast. Don't, you know, it does have 4 tasks. You can go back in the CAP and use a lot of things from the teacher working condition survey. You don't have to do a reflection for the CAP other than what you do in the SIP, but the task 4 in the CAP is just a graphic organizer, some things that you found out about the culture of your school. So it can be a quick evidence for you. Both of these are not as encompassing by themselves as what you've had in the past.
Exactly. And I will say, I'll look and see what I have written down and if I have specific information, but because that was the group I was coaching last semester who was working, who were working on both of those two artifacts, I may have, Bella, sorry. I may, there was a bear incident today, so we're all a little crazy. I may have, made some documented notes about what you can do if you're needing to do some parts of these virtually. I'll look and see what I can find. I think definitely with the CAP, that may be the case. With the SIP, I think about in January and February, it was a very different conversation than the one we had tonight. So yeah, so I'll look for that stuff too and see if I can find anything.
Okay, Dr. Summer, thank you. And I did have a question, which you guys can see it on chat too, is can we do a hybrid proposal for the SIP, a little COVID related, a little normal school year, or would you recommend we steer in one direction? No, I think if you can, I think it's, I think it's just a really good opportunity for you to work a little bit with some of the things that are having to be dealt with COVID, and later on, when you get engaged in the interview process, you can talk about your role in that. And I think that would be a very strong positive talking point for you, is to talk about that. And plus one, I think your school is going to need your help. You guys are obviously leaders who've got a lot of potential. If you wouldn't be in the program. You sure wouldn't have lasted to this point. And so your school can rely on you to help him in that process. So yeah, I think if you can do a little bit of both, absolutely. All right, any other questions or comments? I will get that CAP recording out to you. That way you'll have all the available information. And when you start off next semester, we're going to be with you then too. Hopefully it'll be, like I said, it'll be me. If not, it'll be another very experienced coach who can help you through that. And we'll be going through all this over again. It's just not the only time you're going to hear this information. So it is good if you're at that point where you can move forward a little bit, get some things set up. You go ahead and set up some, who your team is going to be. Go ahead and do the background organizational setting within the context of these two evidences. Talk about the participation of that team. That's information that you're going to really have to do, and just start pulling that data together. So there's opportunity for you to do a lot. If you ever get stuck, or you ever need some guidance, or just somebody to sound an idea off to about doing this virtually online, just talk to any of us. We'll be happy to help you. All right. Anything else for the good of the cause?
Do either of you guys know when the next semester officially starts? Is it right after the summer session, or do you know?
We've got a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is
Got a little bit of a break here.
like some of the others? I think it's around the 17th.
Thank you.
About the time we're going back to school.
Yeah, good time.
Sorry, Jeannie. All right. Anything else we can do to help you guys? Okay, I'll post this recording tonight, if not in the morning, and then we'll send it out to you via email. You guys stay safe. I hope and pray you and your family both are healthy and safe until we see you again. Thank you so much.
Dr. Bullis, can I talk to you for a minute before you get off?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I will stay around and hang out with Eric for a second. The rest of y'all have a good evening.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Yeah, Dr. Bullis, I'm going to Texas with our administrative team next week.
Yes, sir.
For the DeFore training.
Oh, man, I've done that. That's awesome. That's a great opportunity for you.
Am I able to use that for my internship stuff?
Yes, sir. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah,
Okay.
That's great.
And how much can I use? Because I think it's a three-day training.
If I tell you what, have you got the agenda?
Not yet, but I should have it by tomorrow or the next day.
Send me the agenda. Let me look at those sessions, and if you can use all of it, I'm okay with you using all of it. If there's just a real diversity in the sessions that you're going to be going to, I don't see why we can't use, a big chunk of it, if not all of it. But I need to take a look and see what the agenda is.
Okay. All right. I just wanted to make sure.
Hey, listen, let me ask you a question. Because you coach, right?
Yes, sir.
Have you heard anything about the North Carolina High School Athletic Association doing a conference, press conference tomorrow at 11?
They're doing a press conference. The only reason I know a lot about it is because our head coach for football, and he's also our athletic director or head athletic director, because I can kind of help him with a lot of football and athletic director duties during the winter, spring. So it's basically just a rundown of things, basically saying we can't do anything right now until the governor gives us some leeway.
I wondered about that. I thought, what can they say?
Well, the Asheville area, and I'm not trying to throw off on that conference of coaches, but they're itching to get something started, as in plans and things like that, which talking to our head coach, he said, we've got plans in place. We're just waiting to hear what the governor's going to allow us to do.
Yeah.
I think that's what kind of set the stage for this, because it gained a lot of popularity through news outlets and things like that, that they just felt that the NCHSA didn't have any plans. So.
All right, good deal. Well, thanks, because my heart skipped a beat when I heard that, but I didn't. One of my ADs just texted me before I got online here, and so I didn't have a chance to follow it up. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, but I was thinking, they can't say anything because, it's all going to be just like everybody else. You're waiting for the governor to say something.
Yeah. So,
right, man, thank you. I
hopefully
appreciate
we'll
it,
have
buddy.
something. I appreciate you. Thanks, sir.
See you later.